Hello indie game fans, the beat 'em up is a very classic genre going way back to the arcades, so let's take a look at some of the best that indie games have to offer. This list will include 2D brawlers, which I differentiated based on the number of planes of movement, but we shall start with the not so indie River City Girls. The latest official entry in the River City Ransom franchise sees a reversal of roles, with the girlfriends rescuing the boyfriends instead. It has an awesome pixel art style, fantastic music and fun combat, so a no-brainer for this video, but since WayForward and even Arxis are larger companies, it doesn't quite qualify, but a great game nonetheless. The one thing that I love the most about Foul Play is the overall dressing of the game, set on a theatre stage where you play as the demon hunter Baron Dashforth or his sidekick Scampwick, as they literally put on a show for the paying audience. The integration of the theatre or stage mechanics, such as the background set being shifted by hand to even showing the audience in frame, is very neat indeed, and add to that the fun beat 'em up combat and you have yourself a pretty good game. The 22-act story, with areas ranging from deserts, woods, and even a ship, keeps things fresh and does keep you playing. You can unlock additional attacks and skills, with countering and air juggles being a factor as well. While you can play this solo, like most beat 'em ups, this one is probably best with a friend.
Since the dawn of time, the sacred parchment has maintained the balance between worlds. Throughout the ages, dark forces conspired to undo that order. Now, wretched creatures roam the land, wreaking havoc and leaving chaos in their wake. Only 4 truly unruly heroes can turn back that dark tide and restore order to heaven and earth.
The first 2D brawler on this list is the absolutely gorgeous Unruly Heroes. This is one interpretation of the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West, with the 4 playable characters being based on Chinese folklore. With the mission of having to assemble the pieces of the secret scroll to restore peace to the land, travel through a number of beautifully drawn levels while fighting off monsters and demons. The 4 characters have their own style of fighting, where in single player you can swap between them on the fly. It does also support co-op, but the kung fu based action is just fantastic.
Yeah. They call me when ninja people attack the street. My president's black and y'all gon' give him back to me. I spend half the week training and doing tournaments. I spar with gangbangers with janky shurikens.
Something a little more unique is the recently released Treachery in Beatdown City. This is a beat 'em up turn-based RPG hybrid where you can mash and pound on enemies, but can also bring up a menu to string together combos and attacks. There are 3 playable characters, which you alternate between through the course of the story, where you need to rescue the president from ninja terrorists. The different combos that you string together can do things like increase accuracy, cause bleeding on enemies, slow down their movement speed, and so on, but it all happens on a beat-em-up-like interface, which is very interesting. The 8-bit art style is also very retro as well, with one of the best original soundtracks that I have heard in games.
Hypnotized, laptop and no end design so they don't watch what they gentrify. Yeah, beat down, city, we gon' whoop your ass. Beat down, beat down, city, we gon' whoop your ass. Beat down, city, we gon' whoop your ass. Beat down.
When it comes to 2D brawlers, a large part of it comes down to style points, with many using a Devil May Cry style letter ranking system, and one which does it well is Speed Brawl. This momentum-based brawler feels very good to control, with a nice variety of 6 playable characters and a unique, almost steampunk-like setting in 19th century London. The world and lore is fun to explore, involving a bug-like alien race who are now under the control of the human officer who killed their queen, who decided to create the sport of Speed Brawl in order to placate the masses. Love the art style, and the constant timer is one that will keep you pushing on. In doing the research for this video, I came to the realization that developer Vanillaware isn't that large of a team, so I suppose it kind of counts for this list with the controversial Dragon Crown, originally released in 2013 with a remastered version released on PS4 in 2018. Now, I'm no expert on PlayStation titles, but this one reviewed well based on the action, putting aside questionable character designs. There's character customization, equipment, side missions, and so on, with beautiful hand-painted art to round off the package. An older title that is still worth going back to is SHANK 2, the follow-up to the 2010 game of the same name, which is a 2D brawler where you play as an ex-mob hitman forced into action when those closest to him are threatened. There are a large variety of weapons to wield, from guns, knives, grenades, and more, with a cartoony art style that has aged very well. This comes to us from Clay Entertainment and can perhaps be thought of as the action counterpart to Mark of the Ninja, so a shame that no newer entries exist, but a great one to go back to. This one was a very pleasant surprise from 2 years back, since NINJIN Clash of Carrots is a light-hearted ninja-themed beat-em-up where you beat up bad guys to retrieve the carrots stolen from your village. While the character and enemies are constantly on the run, don't be fooled, it is a true blue beat-em-up with attacks, dodges, dash attacks, ranged projectiles, and more. Collected carrots can be used to purchase new weapons and equipment, boasting over 100 of these, so it certainly has legs in that department and provides plenty of variety. It supports up to 2 players, so perfect with a friend, with light-hearted writing and a bright, colourful presentation. Another beautiful brawler makes the list with Bladed Fury, set in ancient China with a touch of mythology thrown into the mix. Art styles make games, and this one is fantastic, reminding me of Chinese paintings with frantic, combo-based combat adding to the package. The boss designs are also something to behold, taking inspiration from Chinese gods and spirits, so if you're sick of Greek, Norse or Egyptian mythology, this one's a great place to go. A very special shoutout goes to the Singapore-made Streets of Red Devil's Dare Deluxe, a retro-looking roguelite beat-em-up with such an awesome art style and colour scheme. The sepia tones naturally are nostalgic in nature, but this pays tribute to classic horror movies as well, with an amalgam of knockoff horror movie villains playing a prominent role in this. There are 6 playable characters, each of which feels unique to play as, with multiple paths and a resource management system based on cash that you earn from defeating enemies. However, the roguelite elements are really to a minimum, with the core beat-em-up gameplay being very enjoyable.
Streets of Red.
Hey, do you like Streets of Rage? Then squint hard at the TAKEOVER, and you can certainly see some similarities from the well-balanced Leon Kennedy-looking police officer main character, his girlfriend who very much seems inspired by Blaze, and his brother-in-arms who is heavy, very much like Max. However, this is no mere copy since it has quite the interesting art style and adds in elements of its own, such as a rage meter that allows you to do more damage when activated, to a screen-filling special attack filled with all manner of explosives. Punch and kick are also on separate buttons, making the combos even more fun to pull off, so for one that's very classic in design, cannot go wrong with this. Another one of the more unique entries on this list is the Friends of Ringo Ishikawa, a life sim title that has you following a Japanese high school delinquent gang leader as he lives through his last autumn before graduation. While you do have to attend school, there's a whole town to explore, a day-night cycle, and even mini-games like billiards which you can check out. Of course, with rival gangs in the mix, fights are sure to happen, with quite the satisfying feeling action as well. One of the OG standouts in the beat-em-up space, of course, is Castle Crashers, first released on Xbox Live Arcade in 2008, with subsequent remastered versions being released on PC and modern consoles. I'm sure that many of us have fond memories of this game, but if you have yet to play it, it is a wacky title filled with crazy bosses and a classic beat-em-up action. It doesn't overdo it with upgrades and meta progression, but a must-play title for sure. One title that you may have missed out on is Wolverblade, set in Britannia and inspired by real-life historical events, where you need to fend off the 9th Legion of the Roman army. As shown in the trailer, the action is much more zoomed in, with bloody and visceral combat, but with 3 playable characters and supporting 2-player co-op. This, like titles mentioned above, is best with a friend. Again, not too complex in terms of the systems, but an excellent one of these.
Wolverblade.
Speaking of blood and gore, 2016's Mother Russia Bleeds self-describes as an ultra-violent beat-em-up that mashes together Streets of Rage and Hotline Miami. Obviously, there are quite a number of adult themes here, with drug use and violence being prevalent, to the extent that you can even feel your syringe from fallen enemies. Choose one of 4 playable prisoners who must overcome an oppressive criminal authority in their battle for freedom. Much like most unsettling media like Hannibal, the pig symbolism is present, so for a very disturbing take on the genre, this is one to get. An interesting side note is that this is made by Le Cartel Studio, whose most recent product is Heave Ho. Yes, that one, so talk about tonal whiplash.
Score.
The return of the 2-button rhythm brawler One Finger Death Punch 2 last year marked a return to form for developer Silver Dollar Games, who have been surprisingly quiet prior to that. This has you controlling a lone warrior in the middle of the screen, tapping buttons and killing enemies while wielding a wide array of weapons. While the narrator is borderline racist, and I say this as a Chinese person, I can see how it pokes at poorly dubbed martial arts movies from the 80s and 90s, so I guess I can give it a pass. The sequel adds in more weapons, modes, and so on, with this being one of my favorite Twitch action series of all time. While essentially only a 2-button game, the ways that this game makes you use those 2 buttons is very creative, from enemies that require a certain combination of presses, boss fights, QTEs, dodging and more, with a wide variety of content in the package. Showing my hand a little, but the recently released Streets of Rage 4 is excellent and deserves a spot on this list for its combination of nostalgia-filled action, returning characters, and for being an unabashed tribute to the genre. The fact that the classic pixelated characters can fit in seamlessly with the action in this modern game says a lot about it, and while more could have been done with regards to the music in particular, this one is still very enjoyable overall. A criminally overlooked Brawler title is Aztez, which I greatly enjoyed back in 2017. This is a Brawler strategy game hybrid where you play as members of an elite close combat unit and are sent on missions for the Aztec Empire, fighting both Spanish conquistadors and mythological monsters alike. There's a meta board game strategy layer that has you controlling territory and cities, but the brawling action and combos are just wonderful. Blood drawn from enemies is a central mechanic that allows you to summon Aztec gods, but the flow of combat is one of the best that I've ever come across in games. If you want to go old school, Fight and Rage is a modern take that nails everything from the visuals, action, and soundtrack. This more closely resembles a 90s arcade title down to the scan lines and CRT monitor aesthetic, which is something that I usually turn off in games, but it's very well done here. There are a ton of unlockables, from alternate costumes, enemy fighters, modes, and more, with a combat system that's pretty interesting since, while in a combo, holding up or down will chain that into a throw. There is a special move as well that can be used in neutral, mid-combo or in mid-air, resulting in new offense in all scenarios, but me being me, I just love the pixel art. Another must-play title in my opinion, definitely pick this one up. Another tremendously overlooked title is Full Metal Furies from the creators of Rogue Legacy, Cellar Door Games. This 4-player co-op beat-em-up has a focus on co-op play, with characters and abilities that really complement each other, from tank, melee DPS, ranged DPS, and one that uses traps and turrets. I get mad when people compliment games like Streets of Rage 4 in having enemies bounce off the side of the screen rather than going completely off screen, since Full Metal Furies did it first with a host of other very clever tweaks to the beat-em-up formula. Perhaps having to switch between two characters in single player felt unnatural, but this is without a doubt one of the best games in the genre, taking the #1 spot. If you enjoyed the video, why not share it with a friend? Check out even more great indie gaming videos, and in this current climate, stay safe and I will see you after the jump.